the things that I hear about fruit sugar is so bizarre, I just have to tell you. So this is about my take on fruit sugar and what I've done in 45 years on fruits, berries, and melons, where fructose is high and essential. You know, there's three simple sugars, guys, in nature. You have your fructose, which is your simple fruit sugar. You have your glucose, which is your simple vegetable sugar. And you have galactose, which is your simple milk sugar. And these are the three simple sugars. When you start complexing these sugars, then you start getting into dye, which is 2 or more, and then you get into polysaccharides. Saccharides are sugar. Sugars are the carbon side of nature, where amino acids are the nitrogen side of nature. Carbon tends to be on the base side of chemistry, and the nitrogen tends to be on the acidic side of chemistry. When you start looking at the foods that have these simple sugars in them, they're base in their structures. Because base-dominant food is the appropriate food for the Homo sapien, matter of fact, for most vertebrates. So when someone claims that fruit sugar, natural fruit sugar is bad for you, these guys are probably of the intellectual variety who got lost in studies that are meaningless and have no basis in fact or truth. And you see this constantly. And I've done videos through these years showing the fruit sugars, how beneficial they are, and why we win so many cases. And especially neurological cases. But it's important that everyone realize that sugar is essential to life. It used to be called grape sugar. But it is important that you understand that sugar is carbon, and carbon is essential to acquiring ATP, ADP, and AMP. These are the adenosine tries, dyes, and monophosphates. These are the energy factors of cells, where oxygen and carbon are combined with the hydrogen yanked out, which is the acidic side of chemistry, and now you have energy, pure energy. It's important to understand that sugars are essential. On top of this, you must understand the different vertebrates and how man was put together. Of the 4 basic vertebrates, man obviously is of the frugivore variety. He's a primate-ish, and even more refined than primates. And one might argue that some primates are omnivores, not in choice. Primates are frugivores, and many live as omnivores by choice, and the mountain gorillas have to eat the tender greens by choice. By not choice, it's just where they're pushed up and they live in the higher mountains. Too bad, because these are frugivores. Frugivores have a unique way of chewing, a digestive tract that is, I would say, in the middle, and the ability, of course, ringed for maximum absorption. We do not have a high hydrochloric acid level, nor do we have a complicated digestive system whatsoever. It's important to understand in man's digestive tract, particularly in the duodenal area, that duodenal chyme pH must be 7.5 to 8.5 to even have trypsin, which finishes up the protein polypeptide syndrome down to the amino acid phase. But also your tylan, amylase, and all these others activates in a base-dominant pH. Now, important to understand that herbivores are those animals that eat vegetables. And the design of a herbivore is totally different than that of a frugivore. We look totally different than a horse, a cow, and an elephant. And the reason we do is because we are of a higher level of consciousness. And these animals, even though pure consciousness in that way, are different in their structures, as I've said. They have a much more longer digestive tract. Their digestive tract is over 30 times the length of their spine. Ours is only about 12. Most herbivores have 2 to 7 stomachs or compartments that assist the digestive process of the fiber. You get into why man had developed juice extractors, and that is to get rid of the fiber. When you're working on a case of any level, you don't want to give people vegetables, because even though alive and fairly energetic, an average vegetable gives off about 9,000 angstroms of energy. By the time you're breaking down that hard to digest vegetable, and a lot of people are pushing the kales and the leafy greens, which are the worst, They are very difficult to digest. And so man tends to see a lot of undigested foods in his stools, particularly when there's some compromising in the pancreatic area. Again, herbivores chew and grind. We do not grind our food. Much different. And then it comes the omnivores. We're nothing like a dog, hog, bear, or chicken. These are all omnivores. Most omnivores favor the veggie side, of course, or the fruit side of life. Omnivores are even more restrictive in that way and more like pre-digested vegetable matter, particularly into the true carnivores that like the gut tissue because it is pre-digested vegetable matter. Has no length of bowel to digest vegetable matter, a carnivore. This is why you can't, in felines and cats, you can't detoxify them in the way that you would, say, an omnivore, which you can use some vegetable matter with some omnivores. But in reality, no animal is designed for vegetable matter except the herbivores. And we're not even close to a herbivore design. So in my cases, especially in the neurological cases, an advanced ALS case, got her in at the end of April, and we do this with all our cases, however. She was advanced. She lost her ability to speak neurologically and to sing, obviously. She, of course, was bedridden, chair-ridden, and her feet were turned in and her hands turned in. Advanced ALS, of course. By the time September came around, she walked home and singing and talking. And not on vegetable matter, on fruit matter, on fructose. Very important to understand the high level of frequency of fructose and of fruits. And it is the only level that you can regenerate man's nervous system on. We never fail to get quads, paraplegics, and those sort of people out of chairs if they follow the protocols. Now, admittingly, I do use botanicals hitchhiked onto that. And there's a good reason for that. So this concept that fruit sugar feeds cancer cells is so far off point, it's not even funny. All sugar. And to argue that fructose, a natural sugar, is bad for you, but that glucose, a same inferior natural simple sugar, is better, makes no sense. Matter of fact, when you get into type 1 diabetes, where the island of Langerhans, the beta cells, are no longer producing adequate amounts of insulin, you want to get off of all vegetables and all foods except fruit. When you go on all fruit as a type 1, you might glucose load for a few days, but your blood sugars will come right down and you'll be between 100 and 200 easily. Depends how brittle you are, etc., etc., but you can fix all that. Because fruit sugar does not require insulin. No matter what the medical records show, I can demonstrate case after case. You know, I come along with Dr. Jensen, personal friend of mine. A lot of the greats were personal friends of mine. And I can tell you, Dr. Jensen woke up one day with PSAs of 1600. And he thought, well, let's go back to the old carrot juice fast. And I've done plenty of those through the years. Yeah, realizing that, whoops, nope, no worky. Carrot juice, you don't fast on carrot juice. You don't fast on vegetable matter. Matter of fact, fasting is a water or dry fasting event in nature. However, the fruits have the astringents and the energetic power. Their digestive needs are so small that the yield of energy, systemic energy to the body, is much higher than that of vegetables. And therefore, that's why you see the nerve regeneration so much more. I've had nerve regeneration going on in MS and ALS, given vegetable matter to try to maybe build more muscle because you have that stuck in your mind about the aminos and stuff, only to have them lose their ability to move anymore. So putting them back on fruit to get that mobility and that energetic going. None of them dies from fruit sugar because fruit sugar is a natural simple source of carbon. To say that fruit sugar, again, feeds cancer cells, all sugar feeds cancer cells. Do we even know what cancer is, guys? You know, it's important that the public understand what cancer is. And if you guys are living in the world of diseases, then you're living in the world of illusion. Medical doctors own the world of illusion. They've created the whole concept of diseases. There's no such thing. The world is cause and effect, period, plain and simple. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. All the greats, the Jesuses, the Buddhas of the world have taught this. So anytime you experience something, you created it, pure, plain and simple, maybe from unawareness, but you've created this. You know, remember the forks over an eye syndrome? Hand to mouth. You weren't taught what foods a Homo sapien is because we've become so perverted in our tastes. Young babies know, and young children know. I can lay a big table of fruits and vegetables, and 9 out of 10 children will go to the fruit before they go to the vegetables at all. They love the fruit. And we have tens of thousands of children out there being raised on fruit, academically superior to their classmates in every way, physically unbeatable. It's unbelievable what's going on out there on fruits, berries, and melons. Some of that, not so much the melons, but the fruits and the berries, the highest nutrition of all the plant lives. And the very ones we need, the high flavonoids, just incredible powers that these fruits, the astringent value, so they can move lymph. And that's another thing that's vital to understand. But let's go back to understanding sugar feeds cancer cells. All cancer is a name for damaged cells. Well, what side of chemistry damages cells? There's only 2 sides of chemistry, guys. Which side damages cells? We know it's the acidic side that damages cells. Vital to understand because most metabolitic waste from cells are acids. Plus all the activity we have, all this acidic sewage that is accumulated daily has to be eliminated by the body. It is not eliminated through the blood. If you believe that, then you're believing in fallacy. The blood cannot handle high acidosis, or you would be dead in about 3 minutes. Maybe you might live 3.5 minutes. Acids have a whole nother system to deal with, and this is the system that most people, even in the healthcare industry, and I even see in Hippocrates to a certain degree, is ignorant of. And that is the great lymphatic system and how it really works and what it really is. And if you're afraid of fruits, then you have a very unjust, unwarranted, unconscious view of the world and why God created all these fruits and for whom. We have tens and tens and tens of thousands of people worldwide that not only have got their health back from levels that are deep, but look at the energy and look at what we're doing with the bodybuilders and look at what we're doing all around the world with a fruit, berry, and melon level. It is one of nature's most powerful levels in terms of magnetics and consciousness and also of chemistry. A good friend of mine is a 3-doctorate professor in Canada. He has studied foods and chemistry all his life, 3 doctorates. Says a banana is nature's perfect food, but gets into all the fruits, the blueberries, and shows you the power of these foods. So these are some of the things that when we're arguing about fructose and saying that fructose is bad for you, if someone arguing high fructose corn syrup, you're talking about something that's a process that's way out there. You're not talking about simple fructose sugar from a fruit, which its little buddies are glucose and galactose. And you'll see that as a combination of the two, of glucose and fructose, even in some veggies. So to sit there and talk about fructose and not about glucose, you know, when you're trying to avoid sugar and you're saying, well, fructose feeds cancer cells and glucose doesn't, that's insane. All sugar feeds all cells, ATP, ADP, and AMP. All sugars, carbon. But it's a moot point to say that I'm going to, that I'm feeding these cancer cells and that's what's making my cancer grow. That's insane. We're a tropical species. We're not a cave dweller. The paleo thinkers and the cave dwellers, wrong. We're a tropical species. We might have migrated to northern climates, hostile environments to the Homo sapien, but we're not from these environments. We're a tropical species. But anybody thinks that fruit is bad for you has a lot of problems with their consciousness. You know, unripe fruit, there is a big difference. Unripe fruit is more acidic because the growth stages of fruits are the nitrogen stages. You pick fruit ripe. This is part of the problems. If you're judging unripe fruit, then you're making a misjudgment. But all sugar feeds all cells. It's carbon. But that's the moot point. A damaged cell, how do you get a cancer cell? Matter of fact, how do you produce an atypical cell and then a cancer cell? How does that damage occur to that? Well, you must understand the lymphatic system and exactly what the cell's job is in eliminating its metabolitic waste into the interstitial fluid, which the lymph fluids takes it right to the lymph vessels, right into the lymph nodes, and out you go. These are the acidic byproducts of metabolism, but all of it, from the Krebs cycle to methylation, you name it. All these byproducts have to be eliminated. They're not converted to other chemistry. We're not an in-house type of thing where the liver's constantly transmutating all this chemistry into beneficial chemistry. Difficult to change acids back to base when the diets are not involving much base. And very difficult to change an acid to a base. Things tend to be more acidic, more acidic. That's the K of life, birth, life, and death. Life is in the base dominant stage, death is in the acid dominant stage. Where kidneys fail, etc., etc. Go after the kidneys, learn the kidneys and the skin, learn the role, skin, thyroid, kidneys, adrenals. Learn those things and go after those things. Get kidneys to filter. Kidneys don't filter, you can't get rid of tumors. And the one food source for the humans neurologically, academically, and everything else is fruits and berries, and of course the melon variety would be very good for us as well. And we've had 45 years of proving this. So it's just enough to say that the argument of fruit sugar and fruit sugar is bad for you is ridiculous. It has no basis in fact, and half the people on this planet would be dead. So it's ridiculous. And to have anybody that's at any learned position say stuff like that is just unconscionable. So it's enough to say that people have to really start pulling back a little bit from academic. In this clinic, I don't like to give percentages, and we won't call it cancer because that's medical thinking. But those that have damaged cells or cells at these levels, we have a well over 90% success rate. Well over that. Stage 4s all the time. There are some of you that are in stage 4s that are not going to make it. And so I think that's really about all I think I have to say about fructose. It is the divine sugar of all sugars. We used to call it grape sugar. And all the greats, we all adored it because it is our energy factors. And like I said, it's the only level in a neurological case that you can find your remedies. That's for sure.